All right, welcome back to Getting Past the Premium, everybody. This is going to be a fun one with Nick Aube, and I'm super excited for this, man. How you doing?
Dude, I'm good. Doing good. So excited I came to damn talk.
There you go.
I'm
There you
doing
go.
good. I
Not too many
appreciate you
people
having me
get
out.
that excited to talk to me, Nick, but I appreciate it.
We had a good warm up before we got rolling here. So
That's right. That's right. So I think that'd be good for people that don't know you. I mean, I think a lot of folks listening probably do, but for people that don't, I love your backstory, your journey in the industry, and I want to dive into some of that because I think it's very applicable to folks listening. But give everybody the kind of who you are, where you've been, high level, and then we'll jump in.
dude, yeah, I appreciate it. Appreciate you having me on. So I was in the industry about 12 years, and as a broker, about 6 years in, I kind of had this BOR model like rolling.
Yeah.
Like things are good. Like I'm selling on BOR. This system that I kind of built out was working. And I mean, you sell a similar way. It's like, dude, I just felt like a complete stud. I'm like, nobody in the area could touch me. Everybody else was quoting. I'm going to these industry events, like, every broker's like, dude, how the hell are you doing it? And meanwhile, I'm taking their accounts not behind their back, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm taking accounts from underneath them.
Yeah, you're winning. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was fun, dude. And it was working really, really well. And I got to a point where I'm looking at it like, okay, I see the path forward. I've got equity in my book, 50-40 commission split, country club membership, expense account. Like the whole deal was there. I'm building this thing on BOR, and it literally was not fulfilling me.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, dude, like what is going on here? And really my passion the entire time was to scale this BOR system. That's what I want to do. That's what I set out to prove. Okay, it worked. Check that box. Now let's move on. So I spent probably the last half of my career at the agency I was at trying to figure that out. Looked at, push for partner, looked at starting my own agency, looked at leaving to go to a different firm. Like, can I join there, with some equity and build out this BOR thing? Yep. And then ultimately landed on this coaching thing. I was literally on a coaching call, a community that I was in. I'm like, holy shit, that's what I want to do. That's how I can scale this system. No red tape, no bullshit with the carriers. You don't have this license. We don't write in that damn state. I'm like, okay, this is how we can do it. And so I started doing that, started pushing towards that. Once I committed to it and actually started working with producers, it was even more rewarding than I ever thought, because now the producers were buying into it more than the clients were. Like I was having those conversations with the clients. Yeah. They were excited. But other producers talking about, hey, here's how we can do it. Here's how we can make it better. Like there was like actual passion there. So that's how I got into that, committed to it fully about a year ago. And now just teaching this process, basically showing producers how to use the BOR to actually write new business without having to quote, without having to go to the market.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And it resonates with me. We, have a similar mentality. You and I've talked about that in depth over time, but sometimes so like we all assume that people know what we're talking about, right? When we say selling by BOR and things like that, but break that down a little bit. I mean, just before you get into the specifics and any tactics or anything, just what do you mean when you say, you're selling by BOR, you're winning by BOR?
Yeah, dude. The hell of a point. I said, at one point too, I read to somebody, they're like, what do you mean BOR? I'm like, broker record. They're like, you mean OAR?
Oh yeah.
And not OAR, AOR. I always think of it the damn band. That's why I go BOR. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even realize that other people called it agent of record. So you're spot on with like, what the hell are we talking about? And I think it's gotten a bad rap for a number of years because there was people using it in a sleazy way. Hey, just sign this damn piece of paper. I need it to quote. And then there's the backside of like, well, the carrier's just going to stick me with the other agency, no issue. So really what we're talking about is on the front end, going out like your normal new business process, 90, 60, if you're really pushing it, 15, 120 days outside of the renewal. Instead of going out and getting a quote and saying, hey, here's what we need to go quote your business, literally present the BOR, say, look, I want you to, choose me as your representative, hire me as your broker. I will go to the market on your behalf, but I need to be the broker before I do any of the work.
Yes.
Getting the BOR signed and then going out and doing whatever work you agreed upon. Maybe that's staying with the current carrier and just negotiating with them from a coverage perspective and terms and pricing terms. Or it could mean going to the whole market. And a lot of times it is, right? If they're going to hire you exclusively, it's that first year, they're going to want you to go to the market. And so getting the broker record letter signed, agent of record, whatever you want to say, OAR, the damn band, whatever you need signed ahead of time, getting that signed, then going out and going to do the work, then going to the market. Because what we're doing is by writing business on BOR, we're guaranteeing revenue on the front end. We're
Yeah.
guaranteeing that we're going to get paid regardless of what the outcome is in the marketplace. And for me, that was huge because I was tired of losing damn control. Like, I've got this great opportunity, I've built this great relationship, and it's all dependent upon some underwriter in a different state. Can they get the price to where we need it to be? And even if they do, now we have the incumbent agent. Now, do they get a last look? And they're going to match the price and they're going to stay. So it's like all this shit's out of my control. Like, I want to control the process. I want to get the guaranteed revenue up front and then go do the work.
Yeah. No, totally. And I'm glad you kind of walked through it that way. To me, it also is, you have to sell yourself. If you're going the quote model, right, where you are, hey, client, let me come in. I've got some carriers you may not have. Let me go out and get some quotes. Might be able to find you a cheaper price, blah, blah, blah. If you're going down that path, your value proposition is the carrier, right? Because you're hoping that they're cheaper, or maybe they've got a different coverage, or their claims are better, or whatever, right? It's all dependent upon that carrier. And exactly like you said, you have no control in that situation. And that's why I think selling on this model is not only better for you, it does require some more work. Sometimes you have to create a value proposition for you and your firm, but it's also just a better process for the insured, for everybody involved. And really you're doing a better thing for the client by explaining this, again, doing it the right way, but explaining what this means gives them a better opportunity to get the best, pricing coverage in the market, because now they have one person that's representing them rather than, sometimes multiple people that are representing them. And so ultimately, not only does it give you a better opportunity, but I think it's better for the client as well. Would you agree with that?
Dude, 100%. I mean, when I started doing it, it was 100% selfish. I'm like, this is better for me. I'm going to do it. Like, but as I got going, I'm like, wait a minute, it's actually better for the client, because now you're saving their damn time. They're not meeting with 3 brokers who are all going to go to the same carriers just to find out the first one blocked the other 2 out. And it's like, for me, I always thought about like the taxes. Like, if I went to a CPA, and let's say every year I was trying to find my taxes are going to 3 CPAs, and a CPA finally came up to me and said, hey, dude, you realize the IRS is only going to give you 1 tax return? And that the first CPA to actually submit your tax return is the only one that's actually going to get it. So you're wasting your time with the other 2 CPAs digging up all the bullshit that you don't want to deal with. Like, my mind would be blown. First, I'd probably be pissed. I'd be like, what do you mean? So I spent the past 10 years meeting with 3 different CPAs, and really 2 of them didn't even stand a damn chance to get me anything. Like, that would drive me absolutely insane. So when I kind of put it in that perspective, I'm like, we're doing the client a benefit just from a time perspective. And then at the same time, if you think about their premium, that's what they all care about. They want to pay less in premium.
Yep.
They don't care that you have your CPCU and CIC and all this other bullshit that we care about. They don't necessarily care about it. If you've got multiple brokers submit to the same carrier, it actually is like a negative ping on or multiple pings on your credit score. It actually hurts their chances to get better pricing, because the underwriter doesn't take them serious.
Yep.
What the hell is this account doing? They got 3 brokers in here, 3 different submissions. I'm not looking at it. Or if they do, they're not going to give their best pricing. So you're spot on. It actually is better for the client to find one broker to properly represent them in the marketplace, to negotiate on their behalf and actually manage that negotiation, especially over a 3 to 5 year period. We don't want to be in the market every year. You got a broker that's blocking the market just because they don't trust their client. That kills it, right? It kills the client's reputation. The client's like, I haven't shopped in 3 years. Well, your broker has, because they don't trust your app for shit. So it's like, your name's been in the market. Now when you go to market, your pricing's destroyed. So that's the benefit to the prospect, the client, wherever you're at in the situation. It's like, it is better for them to have one broker represent them.
100%. Yeah. And that underwriter fatigue is what I kind of call what you're talking about, where underwriter, sees the client's name come across their desk either multiple years in a row or from multiple brokers in a given year. I was just discussing this with one of our carrier reps, and they're like, they were talking about this. And they're like, I don't think some people realize that we keep records. We know exactly how many times your account's been submitted and when and how and by who. And I mean, they know everything, and then they're like, the best is when we'll get like loss runs from one broker, and then we get a different set from another broker, and like stuff like that can happen. And they're like, it just paints a bad picture of the client at the end 100%. Of the day, that sometimes they don't even know, right? And so the other thing, so to take this then to the next level, right, is okay, if we're going to sell on BOR, we're selling ourselves, right? We're walking the client through why they should hire us. And I'll let you kind of give your thoughts, but this to me, where I want to start that is, to me, it starts with a re-education process with a lot of clients, right?
Mhm.
They have been trained for a long time to buy insurance in a certain way, i.e., go out and get multiple bids, bring in multiple brokers to keep your broker honest, whatever it is, right? But that's all they know, right? That's how they've run their
Yeah.
business for 20 years and they've done it that way for 20 years. So walk us through that initial conversation, maybe how you talk about, that the start of this, if I'm working towards a BOR, how am I positioning myself? How am I educating that client to think differently about this whole process?
Well, dude, a couple things to start out. Can you imagine if we use that saying in any other aspect of our lives? Like, oh yeah, every 3 to 5 years, I keep my doctor honest. I don't trust the
Yeah.
son of a bitch operating on me and do whatever, but I
Yeah.
just gotta keep him honest. Like, or your CPA or your attorney. Like, what? I don't get why
So
that's
true.
acceptable. Like,
Yeah.
it's just unacceptable that that's how people operate.
Well, they're looked at as advisors, though.
True.
That's a trusted advisor that you're selecting for a very important part of your life. And I don't think, a lot of our industry is, we've done a disservice in treating ourselves as salespeople. But go ahead.
Well, 100%. And I think if you look back to kind of how this thing's evolved and why it's like, well, we trained the prospect and the consumer on how to buy this way. It's like, okay, well, why? Well, where did we start? If you think about it, the independent insurance agency used to only have one or two carriers.
Yeah.
And so that's how they sold, right? It was on market access. I'm the exclusive broker,
Bingo.
agent, whatever you want to say, in this region for travelers. I could be the biggest freaking prick in the world, but I've got travelers. They've got the best landscaping program. You have to come through me. Your certs are going to take 5 days. I don't give a shit. I'm playing golf. None of that matters. If you want travelers, like, you got to come through me. That's how it started.
Yep.
And then what happened is brokers, it evolved where brokers started getting more and more carriers, and the carriers opened up the marketplace. And so you didn't have to go to, like, I'm going to go to Elliott for Travelers and I'm going to go to Nick for Liberty. You had to do that every 3 to 5 years if you want to see multiple options. But now you could go to one broker and get to all of them.
Yep.
But the brokers didn't evolve, the conversation didn't evolve, and we didn't really educate the consumer on the changes that happened.
That's fantastic perspective. Before you keep going, I want to put a pin in that one, because that what you said there is the industry evolved where we had more carrier access with more people, but the conversation and the brokers didn't evolve. And sometimes, like, I don't know why we're so slow to evolve as a brokerage community, right? It's why this show exists, really. But that is something I think we all need to continually ask ourselves is, what's that next evolution we need to make? And this is a great example of that, but keep going. That was huge perspective.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you jumping on that, because that's really the reality of it. Is like, we've changed. The industry's changed. How we buy and sell insurance has changed, but we haven't changed the education to the consumer. We're still going in the same way.
Yeah.
And I think that is the front end thing that needs to happen, is educating the prospect, the client. Here's how the market works now. I get that's what you used to do 20 years ago, but it doesn't work anymore. It's changed, it's evolved. Here's how you have to navigate the system now. Here's what you need to do if you want to beat that insurance system. However you want to phrase it. Navigate the market, negotiate renewal. You can phrase it 1,000 different ways depending what client that you're talking to. Construction, keep your agent honest, right? However the client phrases it, whatever they're looking to accomplish, that has changed, and your strategy needs to evolve and change with it. And that's really where the education starts, is prospect. Here's how you navigate the market. You need one broker. And here's what they need to do for you. And here's every step that they need to take to make sure you're getting the most out of the marketplace. And I think that's where a lot of times brokers fall short, is they're going in either quoting, or they're just going to start to talk about themselves. Hey, here's what we can do. We've got this risk management portal. We've got the experience mod. We're going to negotiate your reserve 6 months prior to the mod on unit stat date, right? We're talking about all these features that we can do, but the prospect doesn't see how that solves their problem. Their problem is premium. They want to solve the premium problem. And so they think, dude, that's great. You have risk management, HR, whatever the hell you got. Who cares, dude? How am I going to solve the premium problem? So we have to show them, here's a better way to actually solve that problem. Because once they buy into that, then the rest is easy. Like, it actually becomes easier to pitch to BOR because we're showing them a better solution to the number one problem that they have.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more with that. That education, like, we can throw, I call it feature launching. We can throw all the features we want at them, right? But we have to then connect the dots for them. We can't rely on them to connect the dots, because that example you used, the negotiating reserves on your work comp by the stat date and, whatever, they're going to be like, the reserve on the what and the what date and they're just going to go right over their head. They have no idea. They don't know why that's important. And it takes, I liked how you said that. Here's what this engagement with your broker should look like. Here's what the renewal process should look like in a best practices scenario, right? Once you've educated the client on that, then you're going to show them your process for doing that, which should be that or better, right? And then you're going to have a shot at redefining this conversation.
Dude, 100%. And that's the thing, that the actual sale is selling them on the strategy, the new way to solve their problem, which is the premium, right? They're not out there going, hey man, I wish I had ordinance and law on my policy. Do you have ordinance and law? Like, they don't give a shit, right? Hey, you're paying more, and my friend's paying more in premium than me. Well, dude, your friend is a commercial roofer, and you're a commercial roofer, and he's a home bathroom modeler. Like, of course he's paying more. Well, we're both construction. Like, we've all heard that argument from prospects. Like, the reality is, that's the number one thing that they think about is premium. So what we need to do is show them a better strategy, a better solution to solving their premium problem. Once we do that, like, that's the whole sale. They have to buy into that. If they buy into the new solution, which is the new way of thinking, which is one broker, then the BOR is super simple because you're the one that educated them on the process.
Yes.
So it's like, hey, here's the strategy you need to run. Here's what it looks like. Here's how you navigate the market. And then here's what we've built at our agency to help you execute that strategy effectively. We don't quote because it hurts your chances to get the best premium. It's like the conversation becomes much simpler once they buy into that as the solution. If they don't buy it into it as the solution, your chances of getting the BOR, you'll drastically down.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like too, at that point, you're not really competing. You're not in a competitive environment because you're the one that is managing that information, managing that education. So you don't have to, downgrade the current relationship. You don't have to figure out a wedge or whatever. Just by bringing the client along, they're going to understand that I haven't been getting this. Like, why haven't I been getting this? Right. Yep. And a lot of times they won't even ask that question. They'll just be like, where do I sign up? Because I've been with this guy for 10 years and he hasn't said any of this to me. I didn't know how that worked. I didn't know that this is how I should be doing this. And the other thing I would say in there is don't assume that the client knows this stuff, right? Maybe elaborate on that piece, right? Like, a lot of times I think folks just assume because this business owner's been doing it a long time that he knows how this works or she knows how this works. Never assume that the client especially has been taught this stuff or knows this stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a couple things you said there that I want to hit on. I'll hit on that one first. And literally, I was typing a post on this earlier today. My wife and I were talking about over the weekend. We're potty training our 3-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Right. And so was it yesterday or Saturday? She shit her pants. It's like, like, whoa, like we went over this. Like, hey, like when you have to go to the bathroom, here's what we do. You tell us. And she looks at us. She's dead serious. She goes, we said, when you got to go potty, you're supposed to tell us. She goes, I didn't have to go potty. I had to go poo. And we're like, like, wait a minute. Oh, poo is different than potty.
Yeah.
She's like, well, yeah, you said if I have to go potty, I didn't have to go potty. And it's like, oh my God, like it hit me. Like for her, it's like, wow, we have to explain it to every level, like very detailed. She doesn't understand this stuff. She's never done it.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, now it's like, if you have to do both things, oh, okay, I can do that. I can tell you. Okay, cool. Let's go back to what we're doing. It's the same with the prospects. Like they do not get any of this stuff. Like we have to explain it at such a basic level that it almost seems like it's so damn oversimplified that like we're going to insult them. But the reality is they don't know any of it.
Yeah.
Like they have not been taught any of it. And even the people that you mentioned that have been with the same broker for 20 years, their broker's not telling them anything. Correct. Going, here's the quote. Hey, this is the best we could do. Yeah, we checked stuff. Like they don't understand how
2 days before renewal. And
yeah, exactly. You owe us 25% down.
Yeah.
It's like they're so frustrated with that process. So it's like if you could show them the details, like very simply, lay it out for me. Here's how your title last minute renewals. Here's how you get around last minute renewals. I don't care if you do it with me or not. Here's what you need to be doing. Yes. And really what we're looking to do, the whole industry is focused on going and find pain, right? Like that's what everyone tells you, trains you on finding pain. You got to find the pain. And so my first, I think it was like the second account I ever wrote. I took it on BOR. I was like 20, what do you when you graduate college? 22, 23. I was like 3 months in the business. I don't know anything about insurance. I think I just got licensed. But I'm sitting there in this meeting. I basically freaking blacked out. I'm sweating. I'm bright red. Because their only play was the BOR. And in the office that I was in, everybody like, they're like, dude, they're with the right carrier. You should just walk away. I'm like, walk away.
I remember
I'm like,
that stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, this is the only thing I have in the pipeline. I can't walk away. Like, I have one account. And so I'm like, I got to pitch this BOR then. Like, and nobody knew how to do it. They're like, yeah, whatever. So basically blackout in the meeting. She says, yes, she signs up and we get the BOR. And the feedback that I got was like, well, hey, man, that's not going to happen every time. Yeah. Right. Because it was low hanging fruit. She had a lot of pain. Her broker wouldn't even take her phone call. Yeah. Sounds like you guys through something similar.
Well, it's just, bringing back the same conversations, 100%. When I first started the business, it's like, if you didn't have a carrier play, it was just walk away, go get the next one, and then if you had to BOR it was like this black box thing. It's like, well, so then there's one other option, we've exhausted all carriers. Like, well, you could, if you're really desperate, you could ask them to sign this broker of record letter. And it's like, looking back, I just think it's so crazy to me that was like how it was viewed, when in reality, again, it's the better process. Keep going.
It was just like this dirty thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to steal the other agent's work.
Yes.
Like, I'm not stealing his work. Actually, if you think about it, dude, his work sucks. That's why I'm in here. Like, I'm not doing his work. I'm actually going to redo all his work. I really just want access to the market so that the client and I can work together. Like, you're spot on. It was like this dirty, like, little thing that you didn't want to do or no one knew how to do. And for me, dude, the first time I ever heard about it, so that was Brown. So I started there, got that first BOR, basically was like, dude, that's never going to happen again. Good luck. It's like, okay, cool. I'll just go back to the old way. And I started schlepping it, quoting again, and moved to an agency in California. And I say schlepping it because I freaking hated quoting. After I got my taste of that BOR, I'm like, this is like, that's really cool. Like, now I got to go do this. And so I go to California and they're like, hey, we got this hot new landscape program. I'm like, all right, what's the strategy? And excuse me, back up before that, I'm interviewing at this company. So 3 companies. One of them, they go, dude, we only BOR. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. Now I had signed one BOR. I got one. I still didn't get it. And I'm like, so how do you write new business if you don't quote? They're like, well, we kind of what we're talking about. And I was still I could not wrap my head around it. And the dude goes, look, dude, I don't think you're going to be a fit here. He goes, why don't you just go become an underwriter? And and I'm pissed. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I'm not an underwriter, I'm a producer. Yeah. And so I didn't get it. So I took this other job at this other firm, and they're like, hey, we're going to quote. We have this hot new landscape program. Back to what we were talking about, market selection. We're one of 4 brokers in the entire West Coast with this thing. It's the hottest new thing. It's going to be 40% less. So we start selling this thing, and that's all it was. And so for the first quarter I was out there, hammering the phones. I built up a $4.8 million premium pipeline. Back then, I still talked premium. Couldn't even tell you what the revenue was. Bet we can figure it out. But anyway, so we get it up to that 4.8 million. Everything renewed between April 1st and April 15th. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, they were right. This freaking program's hot. Like, and I'm starting to spend money. Like, I'm like, even if I close 10% of this shit. Yeah. And I was like 23 at the time. Out of the whole thing, I wrote $1,000 BOP. That's it.
Oh.
Yeah, it hurt.
A lot of quoting, huh?
Yeah, like I said, I spent some of the day.
A lot of practice. Hey, you got a ton of practice in for $100, Nick.
Dude, I don't even think I made that between gas money and
oh no, you're going backwards.
I had a truck. It got 11 miles to the gallon, and I drove 45 minutes to get that application signed for the $1,000 BOP because I'm fucking writing something. Like, I'm writing one policy. I'm making sure she signs. Anyway, dude, after that, I'm like, this industry sucks. I want out. Like, if this is how it's going to go, like, I'm done. And then I remember that BOR guy, and I'm like, okay, maybe he's onto something. So that's where I really started diving into it with some buddies there. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I don't want to build a book on this. I'm not interested in, I felt like I had no value. I felt like they literally just used me and abused me. And really what happened was we weren't 40% less. We were probably about 25, but then go figure the other agent and the incumbent carrier weren't going to just walk away. Totally. So we were about 10% less, and everyone's like, Nick, you sold me on price and you weren't there. You said 40, you're 10, so I can't leave. So I was like, I want to be done. And so, but I said, before I do that, let's just figure out this BOR thing and take a look at that. And once I got into that and started studying, I'm like, okay, that's what I want to do. That's how we can do this thing. Yeah, because it's completely different.
Oh, 100%. So let's get a little bit more tactical. I mean, you've hit on several of the things, but that I think you teach, and dive into it as much as you want. But we've talked about how we need to re-educate the client, right? They need to understand the better or the appropriate way to hire their insurance broker, what they should be
Yep.
looking for, how it should work. But again, I think most people out there are probably sitting there going, like you were, like I was at one point, like, I have no freaking clue how to do that though. Like, how do I show them I'm better
Yeah.
than, my competition, right? We have all the same markets and so on and so forth, right? So walk through, like, again, now we're in the sales process with the client. What am I saying, doing? How am I setting it up? Those types of things.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is positioning. You have
Yeah.
to position it from the beginning. So in the beginning, when I started doing this thing on the cold call, I'd say anything. They're like, "Hey, do you want to come quote?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll be there."
Yeah.
And I'd show up to the meeting, and then on the meeting, I would try and convince them, like, "Oh, hey, quoting is actually, you don't want to quote. Here's what you want to do." And it wasn't going well because two things were happening. Was I was actually eliminating anybody by saying quoting. I was eliminating good prospects from taking meetings. So
Yep.
I wasn't even getting those meetings. So I was like, "Who the hell's this guy?" And then the meetings I was getting, it was like bait and switch. They're like, "Dude, what are you talking about? You told me you're here to quote. Here's your little packet. I've got 6 other brokers behind you. Could you hurry up and get out of the way?"
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean you want me to fire my broker? Like, it wasn't clicking. And so I'm like, okay, well, how the hell are we going to figure this thing out? Because it's not going well. So positioning it on the front end and actually leading with the BOR without actually saying BOR. And the example that I give all the time now is like, if we're the consumer in other aspects of our life, but let's say our cars, for example. If a mechanic called me up, he's like, "Nick, I want to be a mechanic. Welcome, mechanic. Why don't you come down to the shop? Dude, we'll do a complete diagnostics report on your vehicle. It'll take about an hour and a half, and then I'll take you out to lunch. Yeah, we got to do this on Saturday or Sunday. And then after that, about a week later, I'll come back to you with the report. We'll go over it. I'll show you where, I could maybe save you some money with your tires. Maybe I can improve the maintenance of your vehicle." It's like, dude, holy shit, you already lost me. Like, I don't want to go to lunch with you.
Mhm.
I don't have time to drive down Saturday. Like, what? Like, I don't have time to go through this process. Should I go through it? Probably. I'm with the dealership right now. I don't like them as my mechanic. I'm sure they're upcharging me, but I don't have time to go through your damn process. Now, if we flip it and the mechanic called me up and said, "Hey, Nick, I got the make and model of your car," every other mechanic will tell you to put synthetic oil in the oil tank. For whatever reason, with your car, that's actually going to cause the car to break down sooner. You're going to need a new car. You spend more in maintenance over the life of the car. You're going to need a new car sooner. You have 15 minutes to see if or how I can help you out. It's like, I'm probably taking that call. It's
Yeah.
really easy for me to say yes to. It's only 15 minutes. And you've already identified a damn problem that I didn't even know I had. Like, I've got an oil change next week. I'm about to dump synthetic oil into this thing. Like, what do you mean that's going to actually cause my car to break down? And it's the same concept with insurance. Like, rather than calling and trying to do it better than every other agent, "Hey, your other agent's going to get you your certain 2 hours. We can do it in an hour." It's like, call the prospect and simply explain, like, "Look, dude, every broker's out there is trying to quote your insurance. Quoting actually hurts your premium. You have some time for me to show you?" And like, that's really how
That's simple.
I
Yeah.
like to lead in. Like, dude, everyone's telling you one thing. There's maybe a better way to do it. You have some time to talk about it. And just changing the dynamic, changing of how, what you're positioning on the front end, rather than what a lot of people are doing is kind of the normal traditional process all the way through. And then it's like, bam, they insert the BOR somewhere.
Yeah.
And the prospect's totally caught off guard. And that's where you get the objection. "Well, I don't want to fire my agent. It feels wrong to, to steal their work," whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, and I think something you said there, to go back a step, is find the right prospect, right? That's very
Yeah.
difficult, but I think is one of, if not the most important step, to kicking off the right sales process, is find the people that want that type of a model, and it's hard for us because everybody has to buy insurance. And I don't know how many times I've heard that, like, "Oh, I've got this hot lead, and you can start to ask a couple questions and they're not the right fit for this. You can just feel it. But it's so easy to convince ourselves that we're going to continue going down this path because it's a hot lead. I got this one thing, So I want to, you got to say no to the wrong people and focus on finding the right people. And that's so important. But then you can position that right, because they're going to be receptive to it, and then keep going down the next part of the process.
And I think that you're spot on. Qualifying them quickly is massive. Like, obviously, when you pitch the BOR, there's one of two things. They say yes, and you guarantee you get paid, or they say no, and you don't get paid. Obviously, we prefer to get paid. We prefer the yes. But the no is just as good, because the alternative is when you quote, you wait 90 days to find out if they're going to say no. You wait 90 days to find out. Like, what are their true colors? Are they actually going to stab you in the back, even though they said they wouldn't present your quote to their agent?
Yeah.
They look you in
98%
the
of
damn
the
eye.
time, yes.
Like, Elliot, I definitely will not show your number to my, to my incumbent. Literally the minute you leave, they've already typed that damn email. It's like, if that's how they're going to operate, I want to know early in the process. And so from a qualifying perspective, it's like, I want to qualify them in 15 minutes. Like, are you fit? Or are you not?
Yeah.
If you're not fit, I'm going to help you out still. I'm going to still provide you insane value. And that comes back to the education piece. Prospect, you got one shot to negotiate with these insurance companies. That's it. I'm not the best fit to do that for you. Here's where you should go. Like, if your revenue threshold is 10,000 revenue, the prospect's only paying 10,000 premium, instantly disqualify them, send them to a local broker that handles that stuff, and move on.
Correct.
Sometimes we get caught up like, wow, it's lower than I want, but I think I could easily write it. And we spend all this damn time quoting it to lose on price. So that, I think, is a huge part of it, is quickly qualifying them and getting to that, really like putting their feet to the fire early in the process. Like, are you going to fire your other broker or not? And if you educate them on the process, and if you show them a better strategy to navigate the market, if you show them how you can help do that, if you build this whole thing correctly, and they still don't want to fire their broker, they're never going to fire their broker, even if you save them 7% on their overall package.
Correct.
Like, they're not going to leave. And so we just need to know that early, and that's fine.
Yeah. Save your time, put it into the right people, and I was laughing as you were talking there too. I'm like, we get so mad at underwriters for holding our quotes, until 2 weeks before renewal. Well, it's like, they're doing the same thing. Yes, they're very busy, and I know that a lot of underwriters aren't doing this, but it certainly is a strategy, right? The longer that we can't use that to negotiate in the marketplace, the better. Well, it's the same thing we're doing to our clients in that scenario, right? Like, I would hold you would wait to set that meeting as close to the renewal date as you could, because then they don't have as much time to go out and get a different quote or give a last look or whatever. Just think about how that pits you against your client, which is just not the way to start a good client relationship.
No, but you're spot on. Like, that was the training. Like, the training was, hey, block the market 90 days out, and then give the quote 3 days before. And you'll retain 98% of your accounts, and you can go on vacation and play golf and hang out. It's like, holy shit. Like, okay. But when you explain that to the prospect on the front end now, like new prospects and even current clients, like, hey, this is what I'm trying to change, they appreciate it. It's like, honest, it's real. It's like, this is how the industry works. This is what you are up against. Even if your broker's not doing that, this is how the industry works. And it's really this attitude of like, it's you, me, and the underwriter versus the insurance system. Like, we need to work with them, and we need to work with you. And how can we help you, prospect, navigate and beat this insurance system? Because at the end of the day, every prospect they have a bad taste. I mean, we've all heard it, necessary evil. I mean, one of my top clients, I'd walk into his office, he'd say, next year, hide your wallets. Like, he's thinking I'm going to freaking pickpocket them all. Like, even though I saved the dude 30% the year before, like, it's like they have amnesia. No, they're like my wife. My wife, literally, we just gave birth a month and a half ago. She says, I never want another kid again. It was kind of a challenging pregnancy. Yesterday, she's like, we have 2 kids. She goes, I think I want 4 kids. I'm like, holy shit, you already forgot?
Yeah.
It hasn't even been a damn month.
Oh, it's so true.
The projects are the same. Like, they're the same. Like, they forget all these things. So it's this constant, like, hey, here's what we're working towards. Here's what we're doing. When we go to renew prospect, there's going to be 8,000 brokers that call you this year telling you they have a hot market. Don't F it up. Don't take the phone call. Don't go to market, because we have to stay out of the market for 3 to 5 years to create demand. Like, we're constantly reminding the prospects of these things because they've been trained incorrectly. And so it's retraining the prospect. It's getting them to buy into this process, and then constantly reminding them that year over year.
Oh man, there's so much gold in there. I mean, stay out of the market for 3 to 5 years to create demand. That's money right there. I think that's so true. Okay, so let's just, I want to keep in the interest of time and kind of keep going down that path. So now we're positioning, with the client up front. We're educating them through the process, but then Nick, ultimately, how do I get to this point where they're signing a BOR, hiring me, firing their current broker?
Yeah, so you've got we've touched on it a little bit. You basically have to pick and commit to a path, right? So when I first started, I was like, okay, quoting sucks. I'm done there. Then I got into this BOR around a coverage analysis, right? So it's like, okay, I'm gonna try and create some pain with gaps in coverage.
Yep.
It worked for a while. It didn't work as well as I wanted, because ultimately what happens is, again, we're out of control. I realize there was that old rental car commercial. He says he's a control enthusiast. I'm there with the dude. Like, I don't like, it's like, I was showing up to these prospect meetings, like literally be in the parking lot. I'm like, okay, hopefully their agent doesn't call them back. Hopefully their agent sucks. Hopefully they have 1,000 gaps in coverage. If they do, I'll win the deal. And then I literally get the policy binder after the first meeting. I'd sit in the freaking parking lot. I'd flip through and I could tell you within 5 minutes if there was enough gaps to actually get the BOR or not.
Yep.
And if there wasn't, I'm like, now I'm just like going through the process. Like, okay, yeah, I'll come to the next meeting. And I'm presenting like, on page 280, they take away debris removal, they add it back. It's like I'm even like, I don't give a shit about this stuff. Like, how the hell are they going to care, right? And so it works to a point, but the idea there is if you go that path, you got to commit to it. But the idea is you're now like, you're changing what you're delivering. So I'm not going to give you a quote. I'm going to give you coverage analysis. At the end of that, I'm going to show you if there's gaps in coverage. I'm going to show you why you should come with me, because clearly your broker was asleep at the wheel. So here's why you should move with me, right? So that's one evolution of this BOR pitch. Did that for a while. I'm like, that's still not working. Like we just talked about, I don't have control.
Did you ever have anybody where you found like a gaping major hole that you're like, this is slam dunk? Wow. How did the broker miss this? And you take it to them and then they're like, oh, wow, Nick, holy cow. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe that our broker missed it. I'm going to have to talk to Bob and have him fix that for me. But I appreciate, Nick, you making that, you bringing that to my attention. Like it happened all the time. And you're like, are you kidding me? Like, what?
Well, did I tell you I golf with Bob every Saturday? I can't fuck up the tea time. Dude. So it's funny. My wife and I were driving the other day and I forgot about this account. And that's what they did to me. I did this detailed, gap after gap after gap. And I drove by and it came flashing back. I go, those son of a bitches. And she's like, what? Like, we're in the car with my wife, my 2 daughters. Like 7 years ago, they took my coverage analysis and they gave it. And like, I forgot about it. And so there's that. But then there's the other side where like, there's this account. And this is where I finally turned for me. I'm like, I'm freaking done with this. I literally had this meeting. It was probably like 10, 15,000 in revenue. And so I pitched a coverage analysis. So, okay, I'm going to show up. I'm going to do this thing. She didn't send me the damn policy. She sent me like 3 deck pages out of everything she had. So I show up anyway. I do my freaking pitch. I'm like, she looks at me and she had the audacity, I guess, to go like, dude, that was the worst coverage analysis I've ever seen. And I'm like, but you didn't send me anything. So you gave me nothing to analyze. Like, of course it sucked. Like no shit, right? Yeah. So obviously I don't get the deal. She's pissed that she didn't get what she thought she was getting was this analysis. I walk out pissed. And whatever situation I was in, right? Like I didn't get the policies. That's another huge, most deals die because the prospect says, I'm going to send you the policies. And they don't.
Yeah. Send you deck pages. So
yeah. And we send that pathetic email. Have you had a chance to dig up the policies yet?
Yeah.
Of course they have.
Pull the binder off of the shelf and scan it into me.
Be in the area tomorrow. No, you're not going to be there. You're just like looking for any excuse to get these freaking. So as I'm looking at it, I'm like, these deals die. Like, okay, one is, okay, I have to get the policies. I get over that hurdle. Then there has to be gaps in coverage. Okay. Then they have to actually care about the gaps in coverage. Okay, that's the next hurdle. Now they care about the gaps. I can get the BOR, or they have to send me the stuff. And I have to be able to actually analyze it. And so I looked at it, I'm like, this is not working the way I want. It was better than quoting if I could get everything to line up. But there's a lot of variables that were out of my control. And so when I started thinking about it, and really the process has evolved, right? From me as a broker in that process, and then now to what I'm doing, actually just talking with brokers on an everyday basis. I've hired my own coaches, like, hey, here's what I was doing. Help me dissect this process. How do we like really dive into this thing? Where we have really landed on this thing is like the BOR without a coverage analysis and ultimately without having to find pain. That's what we want. Because every BOR situation that I've ever run into, either myself directly or talking with other producers, it's because there was pain, right? Some sort of pain, right? Manufactured pain. We found a gap in coverage. Their experience mod is high, or their agent wasn't calling them back. Low hanging fruit type stuff that we always hear. Yeah. Like, of course, your agent's not going to call you back or give you a cert. We can solve that, no problem. And most brokers have no problem asking for that, the BOR there. Yeah. what we want to do is create that pain consistently every single time. And what we've been able to do is create it around the premium. Premium is your number one problem prospect. I hear that. Let me show you a better way to actually navigate the market so you can pay less or pay your fair share in premium over a period of time. We're never really going to pay less, especially in this hard market.
Yeah.
But that's really where we create the pain consistently. You're getting last minute renewals. All right, let me show you how to not get last minute renewals. It's not you, it's how the system works. The system was designed to give you last minute renewals so you didn't look elsewhere. Here's how you fix that. All right, so it's teaching them and getting them to understand this new process and tying it around the pain that we know they have. Everyone's got a premium pain on some level. Yep. So that's really getting around. I don't know if that makes sense or
no, totally, dude. I think that's spot on. And I think there's a lot of people that out there in our industry that just don't have maybe the confidence or don't feel like they have the ability to go in and have that conversation. But again, as with anything new, right? Practice makes perfect, and dive in and figure it out as far as what your process is going to be and the language you're going to use. But I think you're spot on in finding something that everybody relates to, and that is often a common misnomer still for producers or agencies in our industry, is that premium, the way to lower premium is through shopping or, finding a different carrier or whatever. And it is so false in the long term, right? In a given year, sure, you might have a carrier that's going to buy some business or whatever. Yeah. But if you're truly trying to manage the premium spend for your client, you have to take a long-term approach to it. And the only way to do that is through exactly what you're talking about. And then we have to educate the client on how to do that. So I'm totally with you. I think that makes a ton of sense. Before we get off though, so folks out there sitting here listening going, wow, this makes total sense. This is the way I want to do it, but I have no freaking clue where to start. Yeah. How do they get a hold of you?
LinkedIn's probably the best bet. You can DM me there, or you go to our website, producer.systems. You can email me, nick@producer.systems. So awesome. Those are probably the three best ways.
Yeah. And dive into a little bit though about what you're doing with folks. I know you got a lot of different things you're working on, but just, dive into what you're actually doing to help folks.
Yeah. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, basically I'm posting daily just ideas on how to do this stuff, how to execute the stuff and build the structure, build the framework. And then we're actually coaching producers on this process. So how to build out that BOR selling system and really go kind of start to finish with like, how do I position it? How do I pitch it? And ultimately ask for it. And kind of in between interview and qualify the prospect. Really, those are the three steps: is position, interview, and pitch. How do we simplify that process, build that out so we can consistently create pain with every single prospect? That's what we're helping them do. And the whole idea is that we're going to be able to BOR without having to find pain. We eliminate that entire section of, let me go ask 1,000 questions. Let me do a mod analysis. Let me do a coverage analysis. Like, we can do all that, and all that stuff's important once they sign up to be a client. Once they sign the BOR, then we'll go do all that work.
Yeah.
And so we want to free up our time. So we're coaching producers on how to really, producers and agencies on how to execute that process and build that out for themselves.
That's awesome, man. And I would encourage everybody out there, if this is something you're interested in learning more about, definitely reach out to Nick. Not only is he a good dude, but he's on to something with this BOR targeted strategy. And think about, I know it's hard sometimes to invest in training and education and coaching and whatnot, but just think, if you join or hire somebody like Nick to build this process, help you get better at what you're doing, and you go out and you close one or two of your target deals, your ROI, you're going to be ROI ahead at that point. And so think about it from that lens, not just that, geez, I don't want to go out and spend more money on additional education or whatever. It's well worth looking into. So I appreciate you being on, man. This has been fun.
Dude, thanks for having me. It's a blast. I'll happy to do this anytime.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again because there's so many little nuances in there that we probably could have spent the entire time talking about, not just trying to cover everything. So
I was just going to say, I'm like, shit, I didn't cover this, want to cover that. I mean, there's so many details to this thing. And yeah, dude, it's fun. So I appreciate having me on.
Yeah, we'll do it again for sure.
Appreciate it,
man.